Good evening, chaps. Sorry about that. There was I clicked the go live button and it just said live streaming is not available at the moment. Please try again. So it took about 3 or 4 clicks. Oh, it took that long. Let me say that. Which, you know, knowing me, that's not that terribly long time. How's everyone doing? Sort of week you had, apart from kind of, well, I don't know about you, but we've had just about every season in the calendar all in this week, and at the moment it's all a bit tropical. But you know, we mourn when it's too hot, we mourn when it's too warm. That's because we're British. So let me just tell you a little bit about what's coming up on the channel this week. This is where I usually kind of give you the, you know, almost like the Radio Times highlights for the channel coming up. Tomorrow there is a video I'm quite proud of, and it's well, you'll have to wait and see, but it's a tune that you'll probably recognise, but maybe not in the way that you're going to hear me play it. And I'll say no more about that. It's kind of got a bit of a rockabilly, kind of rock and roll, kind of bluesy sort of vibe to it. Surprise, surprise, knowing me. But you won't have heard this tune like this before. Anyway, after that, Monday we've got a bit of let's say waterlogged Texas blues. I wonder which one that is. No prizes for guessing that one. Tuesday there will be a review of some kind of plug-in effect, amp sim, whatever. Haven't decided yet on that one. Wednesday, there's going to be a bit of a tutorial on hybrid picking. Thursday, we're looking at resonator guitars, what options are available if you are in the market for that kind of thing. And then Friday, we're back to the live stream again. So that's what's coming up on the channel this week. So that's what you got to look forward to. Cheers, everyone, by the way. Dear me, that first one never touches the sides, does it? No, it's not Stray Cat Strut. I'm doing fine, Bob, thanks. How are you? How is everyone doing? Just looking to see who's in disc. Is that? I always want to call you Disco Dude, but it's Deco Dude, isn't it? Don't know what it's like up in Redcar, but it's 36 here. I knew I was going to get asked that question, and so I just checked the temperature on my phone for the Met Office here, and it's I think it's 29 degrees here, which is you know, I mean, I know some people in some parts of the world would think of that as chilly, but that's you know, I'm sweating like a chav in a maths test here, so it's about as warm as I like it. Evening, Steve. How are you? Matthew's in. Matty Lockwood. How are you then, Matty? Matty was round here earlier on today. Matthew was an old student of mine. He used to come to me many years ago for lessons, and now he's all grown up and works in Manchester. Hi, Tony. Greetings from the US. Same to you, mate. Hello, Stevie. How are you? Jason's in from Stuttgart. 37 degrees here. Yeah, way too hot. This is the thing, right? This is, you know, we get hot weather for about, you know, I mean, I call it hot. You probably wouldn't in a lot of places, but, you know, to us, we get hot weather for maybe 2 or 3 weeks a year. And then as a country, we just kind of melt because nowhere has air conditioning or anything like that. And then in the winter, we get like maybe a week or 2 of snow, and, you know, half the country's closed because, you know, it's not safe, apparently. Funniest thing, I know we're in the middle of summer at the moment, but the funniest thing that ever happened to me, weather-related, was I was walking the dog one winter and used to go at the park, and there's a boating lake in the park. And the little man from the council, you know, You know the type, I'm sure you do. He's locking the park gates as I'm turning up and says, oh, no, you can't come in. So you can't come in the park today. No, sorry, you can't come in. Well, why? Well, it's you might fall in the lake. You might fall through the ice on the lake. I'm saying, well, yeah, but I can see the lake from here and there's no ice on it. Yeah, but the ice has sunk to the bottom and you might kind of, you might try and go and walk on it and then you'll fall through. Those were his words. What he really meant was that he had a cushy little day lined up, sitting in his bait cabin, watching, whatever he was going to watch on his iPhone, and just twiddling his thumbs and not having to go and deal with picking up litter or anything like that. It's been non-stop heat for 3 weeks now. It sounds great, but not up here it hasn't, mate. Not up here. We get the odd day, and I always say that Redcar's town motto should be, and they should have this, kind of on a big sign as you drive into town. Welcome to Redcar. It will be a lovely day if not for the wind, because it's always that howling gale coming in off the North Sea that puts the kibosh on any kind of weather for us. So yeah, I know the parts of the country have been having it a bit warm, but we've just been getting the odd warm day, and then it clouds over, and then it chucks it down with rain, and then it's windy, and then rinse and repeat, basically. DVD Bedford, lovely town. Wife from Dunsdale, mixed marriage out. I'm from North Shields. Yeah, you have to be from the northeast of England to get that one, don't you? Lee's in. How are you, Lee? Capo on the 4th. How's it going, mate? By the way, let's talk about guitars. This is, let's face it, supposedly a guitar-related channel. There are other weather channels, but has anybody seen Daryl Braun's latest video? Isn't that the maddest thing that you've ever seen? If you haven't seen it, it's a guitar neck made from glass. Glass, not like plexiglass, perspex, acrylic, or anything like that, like those old Dan Armstrong guitars. And even then, it was the bodies that were made of the see-through stuff. This is a guitar neck made from glass. I don't know how else to put it. And it's just when you can kind of you're looking at the neck of the guitar, and you can, from the back, you can see the fingers hitting the frets on the front. It's just the weirdest thing. He did some sound clips with it, and it just, what it sounded like? A guitar. So the thing is, I think he missed a trick there, because he said, right, okay, I'm going to pull the neck off this guitar here, this bits and pieces parts caster that he had, and put this glass neck on it. What he didn't do was do like the before and after, which would have been an interesting thing. Yes, for glassy tones, indeed. You just seen it, have you, mate? Yeah, it's I mean, as an exercise in, showing what can be done, it's got to be admirable, but you got to think, is this going to catch on? Is this going to be the next big thing? It happens all the time, doesn't it? Like every few years, somebody will come up with let's build a guitar out of jam or something, and jam, but carbon fiber, or some kind of exotic material. And I'm thinking of back in, as I say, in the 70s, when you had those Travis Bean guitars with the aluminium necks, or aluminum, as my missus would say, because she's Canadian. And then in the 80s you had the whole Steinberger thing. And then, in the 90s, there was the Parker Fly, and so on. Every so often, somebody comes along and decides, let's build a guitar out of something nobody's built a guitar out of before, and it'll be the future of guitars. And how often are they right? Just curious. Don't let Pete Townsend have one. Yeah, the guitar with the rotating pickups, you get 9 pickups with it. Yeah, I saw that one. It does look a bit like, I mean, I get the idea, but, you know, as the way it looks, it does look like it was kind of built in a shed, doesn't it? You know, by a bloke with a pipe and a flat cap. Bob's in. Hi, guys. I've taken delivery of a Telecaster. It came yesterday. I tuned it up and seen it sounds great. It's a Squier Standard Series in black and chrome. You can't go wrong with a Squier, to be honest. I mean, there are similar guitars around, Harley Benton, for that are roughly the same sort of quality for a bit less money. But, you know, I was watching Philip McKnight, and he made a valid point, actually, that I've never really thought of before. When you buy something that's got a recognized brand on it, you're not just buying the brand, you're buying, you know, that company. If it's a big company with a big brand like Fender who owns Squier, you know, think about the customer service department that they're going to have as opposed to the customer service department that, well, for want of a better comparison, Harley Benton are going to have. You know, I mean, it's there are benefits to buying branded guitars beyond the fact that you're getting a certain badge on the headstock. But yeah, you can't go wrong with a Squier. Happy Friday to you, mate. I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name. I have a tower fan on this room. It's for the benefit of my guitars. Yes, I have a fan up there behind me, but I can't put it on because this microphone and that fan do not like each other. It sounds like there's a, you know, basically sounds like there's a Lancaster bomber taking off in the room, and it tends to screw up the audio feed. I wonder if there's some other way I can keep cool. Dan Zane, how are you, Dan? Dan Bernstein. Yeah, Dan is a driving instructor. Made it tonight. Tough week at the workplace. Sweating like a camel's testicle today. That's a little bit too much information, Dan, to be honest with you, mate. Hi, John. Have you played any Cort guitars? And please explain to me why Jeff Beck got guitar. God, don't get it. Okay. Yes, I have played Cort guitars. So has pretty much everyone else. If you've ever played an Epiphone or, you know, insert name here, because Cort make guitars for everybody, apart from doing their own branded guitars. I once briefly had a Cort SG copy, and it was probably the same as an Epiphone SG copy, and it was a fantastic instrument. The only thing I didn't like about it was the fact that it was an SG, and I've never got on with SGs. Just everything seems to be in the wrong place, but we've talked about that before. So yeah, Cort guitars, fantastic guitars. You know, as I say, they make guitars for pretty much everybody else. So, you know, even if you don't know you've played a Cort guitar, you probably have. Why is Jeff Beck guitar god? Well, if all you've ever heard is Hi Ho Silver Lining, you know, then, or, you know, selected kind of things from throughout. It's like that awful thing he did with Rod Stewart in the 80s, People Get Ready. You know, it's, yeah, I can see how if you're listening to the hits, you would think that, well, what's all the fuss about? But do a deep dive into his albums. Take a listen to, you know, any guitar player should have a copy of Blow by Blow by Jeff Beck. It's an album that you listen to it on the first time through and you think, well, okay, yeah, it sounds like the kind of music that would have been playing in a Starsky and Hutch episode in the 70s. But then just listen to it, and you'll start to get it. There's a brilliant track on there called Freeway Jam. That is just it's just a literally kind of, you can hear as they're starting to play, that nobody's quite sure in the band what they're going to do, and it just evolves and kind of comes out of the traps like that. It's a fantastic track. The thing I'll say about Jeff Beck is he has got a unique touch. He's just got that sound he can play. I know it's the old kind of cliche to say one note and you can tell it's it, but it is. He plays one note. And listen to or go on YouTube and watch the Ronnie Scott's gig that he did about 15 years ago. Fantastic stuff. Yes, you're right, Bob. Jeff Beck is excellent at experimenting with the whammy bar. There's an album that came out, I think, in about 89 called Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop, where there's a track where he just kind of plays, it's all played on harmonics, and he's just kind of moving the whammy bar around to get the notes, and just the precision he hits those notes with just not even a Floyd Rose, just a kind of bog standard Fender trem. I think it's called, what's it called? Where Were You? I think it's called. Fantastic stuff. Matthew's got that. Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop is a great album. It's a fantastic album. It's, as I say, it's you've got to get your head into the Jeff Beck mode when you listen to him, and once you do, it's. I've got a mate who's into opera, and yeah, I know. I move in strange circles. And he talks the same about Wagner. Wagner, you've just got to kind of get your head into Wagner's kind of headspace, and then you can appreciate the music. But if you're trying to kind of just dabble in it, it doesn't really work. Jeff's in. Jeff Harley, my mate in France. How are you doing, Jeff? We've missed you. How's it going? Yeah, Vincent. Yeah, you're right. Jeff Beck does a version. Was it on the album Wired? I think of the old Charlie Mingus tune, "Goodbye Pork Pie Hat," which is just superb. Yes, Malcolm, the Squire Classic Vibe are an excellent series of guitars. I think they are future classics. I think if you get the chance to get your hands on a classic vibe now, because you know what Fender are like, at some point they'll discontinue that range of guitars and you won't be able to get a Squire Classic vibe anymore. If you get the chance to get your hands on a Squire Classic vibe, grab one, because I think as soon as Fender discontinue them, I'll tell you what they did this with. Back in '89, I got one of the Japanese reissue 60s Strats. It was a fantastic guitar. It was my main guitar from about '89 through to 2005, 2006. And it had EMG pickups in it by the time I'd finished with it, and it was a great guitar. And I ended up selling it because I'm an idiot. And then, like, literally kind of about 18 months after I'd sold it, suddenly the changing hands for, the high, I'd sold it for like, I think 200 quid. And suddenly, the changing hands for like, ridiculous high hundreds kind of price tags. These Japanese Fender vintage reissues from the late 80s. I think the Classic Vibe series is probably a candidate to go in that direction. So I'm thinking about getting one myself at the moment, to be honest with you. Just change the tuners on the Classic Vibes. Yeah. This is the thing. Is I was talking about this with Matty earlier on today, Matty Lockwood, when he came round for a bit of a visit. And at the risk of sounding like one of the four Yorkshiremen off Monty Python, when I were a lad, I already sound like one, don't I? Excuse me. If all you had to do on a cheap guitar when I was kind of, 17, 18-year-old, if all you had to do was whop a new set of tuners on it and you had a good guitar, dearie me, wouldn't we have been happy? But these days, that's literally all you have to do. I mean, I come from an age when, my first electric guitar was a Woolworths Top 20. Has anybody else ever had one of those, by the way? Hi, everyone. You should big yourselves up. Best chat on YouTube. Well, that's all down to you guys, isn't it? You can't really blame me for sitting here drinking beer and blethering away about whatever's on my mind. Yeah, Jeff Beck, because we've ended as lovers, he's not all hi-ho silver lining. I'll tell you that a really good Jeff Beck track you want to check out, and it's not on a Jeff Beck album. Hang on. Excuse me, these Jules Holland albums that he does with like a load of guest appearances, him and his rhythm and blues orchestra plus guests. There was one of those that he did. I'm not sure if it was the first album he did of that kind of thing or the second album, but there was one that he did back in the 2000s with loads of guest appearances, and Jeff Beck crops up. And they do the old Ray Charles tune, Drowning My Own Tears. Oh, man, listen to that. That's Jeff just making that guitar sing. Just ordered a Harley Benton CS Custom. Have you tried it? I've got the CST24. I'm not really up on the latest Harley Bentons, to be honest with you. I keep thinking about one of those Harley Benton Fusion Ts because I'm sort of gassing for a twin humbucker telly. But we've just had to buy a new oven, so a new stove. So guitar purchases are sort of on the back burner at the moment. Late 70s, early 80s budget guitars were so much worse on average than they are now. The horror, indeed, yes, mate. I've told this story many a times, but I used to have a satellite Les Paul copy. Plywood body, bolt-on neck, and horrible, raspy single coil pickups inside humbucker covers. And when you looked inside the covers, you could actually see, the other side of the metal of what was supposedly a chrome pickup cover, and they had Pepsi Cola kind of logos on the pickup covers were made from sort of chopped up Pepsi cans. Backburner, John. No, it wasn't a pun. I'm not that clever, mate. Yes, the satellite Les Paul copy set the bar. Aussie, evening Aussie. I haven't said hello yet, mate. Have I? You are making some rather fantastic sounds. I've been looking on your channel. You're making some rather fantastic sounds with that Harley Benton Telecaster, mate. It's, you got some chops there. Hi, John. I'm wondering, is it worth coil splitting the twin humbuckers on my telly build? Well, it's always an option. I mean, even if you don't use it, if you've got 4-wire humbuckers, then it's there, and even if you don't use it, it's what have you got to lose? It's 5 minutes soldering to kind of to give you that extra option. Yes, hot dog wood and hot. Mute that bozo. You've been watching Dave's World of Fun Stuff, haven't you, mate? Because that's one of his things that he tends to say. This guitar is made from wood like a hot dog is made from meat. Yes, Paul, the Squire Classic Vibe Strat. Yeah, I'm like that as well. You've blocked the trem. I've got that black Harley Benton Gilmore kind of Strat copy thing up there, and I use that for basically for whenever I need some trem kind of stuff going on, which isn't that often. But it's just, I'm a fixed bridge guy, to be honest with you. Wow, didn't know Peter Green had moved home. Wow, could not get enough early Mac in the 80s. Double live in Chicago. Yeah. As I was, tomorrow is August the 1st, and for all of my Patreon supporters, thank you if any of you guys are there. As I was recording the podcast, which is like the Patreon thing that's going to go live tomorrow, literally as I was recording it, I was scrolling through my phone, and I got the news that Peter had left us, and it absolutely knocked the stuffing out of me. He was. There are some who say that, the real Peter Green, the Peter Green that we all admired as, that wonderful, soulful, fantastic blues guitar player, that guy checked out a long time ago. But, it's still ridiculously sad, because it would have been nice for Peter to have gone out on a high. But, he did his comeback in the 90s and then kind of withdrew from public life again. And then there was that gig earlier this year or last year? The Peter Green tribute gig where, Billy Gibbons turned up and Kirk Hammett with the Greenie Moore Les Paul and everything. And it would have been nice to have seen Peter kind of make some kind of comeback. As I said in the podcast, I don't think he realized just how much he was loved by so many people. Anyway, before we get all maudlin and full of drink, okay, John, how about a trem masterclass? I'm hardtail only too. Yeah, you're asking the wrong bloke, really. The most I use a trem for is the odd little kind of Hank Marvin or maybe Dave Gilmore kind of shimmer every now and again, just to kind of wiggle it a bit. But, in terms of, getting the most out of a trem, then, it's not my forte. So, I'm just trying to read the chat as I'm talking here. I do, as I'm talking. Thank you, Malcolm. This is undoubtedly my favourite YouTube hour. Well, as I said before, it never ceases to amaze me. Just looking at the viewing figures now, there's 134 people on, which is about sort of normal for this. It never, ever ceases to amaze me that I can sit here for an hour on a Friday tea time, getting quite pleasantly merry, and so many people turn up to watch me and listen to me talk utter cobblers. But then again, you all subscribe to my channel, so... and then when I look at the viewing figures as the week goes on, it's like, who's watching it again? I do a video, and any video I put out, it's like, if it gets over 1,000 views within the first 24 hours, then I'm happy with that. It's that's sort of where I'm kind of hitting my sort of batting average, as it were. And, these videos always are like at the top of my stats. Like, when for people watching them again, I'm thinking, I wouldn't watch this. But you guys obviously like it anyway. I don't know the topic, John, but I need advice. What modification do I need to do a hook up to an attenuator to a Blues Junior Fender? Thanks for your show, John. Okay, yes. Now, what I used to do back in the 90s when I was gigging was I used to use... I can't remember what the exact thing it was called, but it was... a Hughes and Kettner thing. It was like a Hughes and Kettner little kind of box that you instead of the speaker, instead of like the lead coming out of your amp and into your speaker, because it was a combo, and there was like the jack plug that went from the amp into the speaker. Basically, you'd plug this Hughes and Kettner thing into that, and then you could just feed that into anything, PA system, mixing desk, whatever, and you would get like a speaker emulated output at whatever volume you wanted, and it was really, really good. So there are load boxes and there's all sorts of stuff. I know Henning on what's he called, HPI 42. Yes, we share the same barber. What he's got, he's got the novel solution of having a soundproof box with a speaker inside it and a mic inside that box that, he does it kind of that way. What are we? It shows 142 here and only 22 likes. Oh, really? Okay, well, fair enough, mate. I don't know. It's... Oh, dear me, I'm knocking me cans over. Good job it's empty. Excuse me. People watch you because you're a quality bloke. Well, it's not for me looks, is it, Dan? Let's watch a fat, ugly bloke get leathered. Oh, wait. Anyway. What do you think about flat wound strings? I've never really tried them, to be honest with you. I've played guitars with them on in terms of people coming here for, because I've been doing this for 30 years. I know. I first started putting adverts in nearly 30 years. 1991 I started. So I've had all kinds of guitars in here, and a few of them have been like, big, old kind of arch top jazz guitars, which tend usually to have flat wound strings on. I'll be lying if I said I noticed much of a difference, because once you're on the top three unwound strings, it doesn't make it that, there's no wind on those strings anyway. Perhaps a little bit less of the kind of scratchiness as you're moving up from, as you're sliding up the strings. But, in the limited experience I've had of playing flat wound strings, that's what I've noticed. But I can't really say I'm like a huge, kind of expert on the topic. Any tips for dealing with tendinitis? Now that I do have some experience of. You've got to put the guitar down, basically. I got to the point where this elbow here was full of all kinds of nasty, kind of horrible, smelly, yellow, pussy kind of liquid that I had to go to the doctors and get syringed out. That was dealing me about 25 years ago. It's not pleasant. It's not fun, and the only thing you can do is really either go to the doctors and get the out as I did, or and even then I had to put the guitar down for about a week or so and just not play and just recover from it. In terms of getting tendinitis, you've probably got something wrong with your technique. A classic example, if I can just grab a guitar, hang on. A classic thing that gives, this isn't plugged in so you won't hear anything, that gives tendinitis is if you're trying to do a big stretch like this, like let's say you're trying to do that typical status quo kind of thing, where you're doing that kind of the kind of thing like that. You see what I'm doing there when I'm putting my third finger on there and I'm reaching over with my fourth finger, okay? You don't want to be doing that. Do it like that. So you're giving the biggest stretch to the biggest finger, okay? and that will avoid it. You know, or whether it's doing that or doing scales. I see a lot of people playing scales where it's kind of like that, and you know, again, that big stretch that you're putting on your pinky finger like that. That's what's going to kind of build up and give you the tendinitis and things like that. Apparently, because I had a bit of nerve problems a few years ago where I woke up one morning and I couldn't move, basically, because I had pain from the top of my head down to the soles of my shoes, and it all comes from you know, an injury I had when I was a kid, and I twisted my ankle and kind of learned to walk, and kind of when I started walking again after that, I started walking with my feet splayed out like that, like Donald Duck, and apparently it just builds up and builds up and builds up over years until boom, the straw that breaks the camel's back, and suddenly you're in pain and it's nasty. So the thing is, you'll notice with tendinitis, it tends to go like that, where you know, you're fine, and then, oh, dearie me, you're in a lot of pain. So it's about avoiding the bad technique in the first place that kind of brings you to that point. Yes, mate, I had pussy fluid in my elbow. I realised as I was saying it what it came out like, but I was hoping nobody would notice. Thank you for that one. I subscribe to this channel, Andertons. Love to listen to Danish Pete Play and Mary Spender, but I don't understand why you don't have more subscribers, John. Well, you know, I don't think like that, mate. You know, I mean, yeah, I watch Mary's videos, and I occasionally watch Anderton's videos as well. It's just I'm grateful for the subscribers I've got. I started putting videos up in 2008. Just as kind of just a laugh, basically, just as a hobby. And I never once dreamed that, you know, 17,000 people would kind of think that I'm worth watching. So I'm just grateful. And I'm very much a glass half full kind of person in a lot of ways, like certainly like that. So, you know, thank you all for watching. And I'm not that as the subscribers go up, I'm just grateful for every one of them. Could you do a vid on tapping? Try as I might, it's not happening. Well, not this week, I can't, because, as I said earlier, this week's kind of little tutorial video is on hybrid picking, but there is a tapping video coming up, probably not this coming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that, I would think. That's kind of penciled in for then, or at least it is now. Your videos are great, John. Thank you. It's you're making me blush, or is it the booze? Anyway, excuse me. I have some business to attend to. Oh, dear me, there's only 2 left. Anybody got any favourite album titles? I like C6 Steve. I started out with nothing and I still got most of it left. Any got any others? Well, can I throw one of mine out there, actually? You have to be from the UK and you have to be of a certain vintage to get this one. But my last album was called Handles for Forks. And the album cover is a picture of 4 candles. As I say, you'll either get that one or you won't. My favourite album title from any band is, does anybody remember the Saw Doctors? Not the Spin Doctors, the Saw Doctors. They did a brilliant album and it's well worth checking out. It's called If This Is Rock and Roll, I Want My Old Job Back. Which is just... The Saw Doctors are a bit like, imagine a cross between the Eagles and the Pogues. Yes, Chris, as in the 2 Ronnies. There you go. Yes, the Saw Doctors. If this is rock and roll, I want my old job back. It's a fantastic album. As I say, a cross between the Eagles and the Pogues. Status Quo, Searching for the Fourth Chord. The off-license nearby is open until 4 a.m. Another one opens at 6 a.m. It's hard to be unhappy here. Yes. And it's good night from me and good night from him. Yes, here we go. I've unleashed the two Ronnies kind of behemoth, haven't I? I have got another album, not anywhere near ready to release. I've got like about half a dozen sort of half-finished tunes that will kind of end up being an album at some point, or maybe I'll just do an EP. But that one's going to be called I'm Playing All the Right Notes, not necessarily in the right order. Tendinitis is more common in drummers, isn't it? I don't know. Possibly. Ian, I remember the Saw Doctors. I think one of them won the Irish lottery and was able to leave rock and roll behind. I remember the Phantom Raspberry Blower, Steve. Yes, indeed. Written by Spike Milligan, apparently. No, I don't know what happened to the Saw Doctors. I never saw them live, but the thing is, you know, you listen to the studio albums and you kind of get the feeling what the live gigs must have been like, because the studio albums were just, you know, they were just a fun listen. You couldn't listen to a Saw Doctors album without kind of having a big grin on your face. Another band, like I tell you, talking about album titles, one of the best album titles for a compilation I thought was Thunder. Thunder, Their Finest Hour and a Bit, you know, because it was like about an hour and 5 minutes long. Hi, John, I get my guitar technique from Les Dawson. Yes, I actually saw a documentary about Les Dawson. Not that long ago, actually. And they had this, I think he was a guy from the Royal Academy on kind of talking about Les Dawson's piano playing, you know. And he was saying, you know, it takes absolute genius to kind of do it that well, you know, to kind of do to play it wrong as well as he played it, because, you know, it's a case of, okay, well, if I'm going to hit a wrong note, it's which note is going to be the funny wrong note, you know, and yeah, he just intuitively knew it. Yes, Vince, Morecambe and Wise. I did have carpal tunnel in my left hand, which stopped me. I'm sorry about that, Malcolm. One of my students is struggling with carpal tunnel at the moment, and you know, she's battling on through it, I have to say. You know, that's a lady called Anne, who, if you saw the video that I did about the Squier Bullet Telecaster upgrade, that was her guitar. I don't remember the Phantom Flinger, Ozzy, I've got to be honest with you. I'm not sure what that means. Sorry, I'm just trying to read the chat here, and these glasses aren't really up to the job. Can play anything on guitar as long as the tuition material has those little pictures. Yes, I remember that sketch, that French and Saunders sketch. That was incredible, wasn't it? When you think about who was on that, I mean, there was Lemmy, there was Mark King, there was Gary Moore, there was David Gilmour. Funnily enough, do you ever find that? I mean, Ralph McTell was the guy who was on that skit as well, wasn't he? for some reason, whenever I pick up a guitar now, I always end up kind of defaulting for going into, you know, again, I'm not plugged in here, so you won't hear this, but I always end up going to. For some reason, I always end up kind of going into Streets of London for some reason. That's it. You know, you can get really jaded about such things, but, you know, that is a fantastic song, isn't it? You know, it's just such a well-written song. And while we're on the subject of my guilty pleasures, another song that I absolutely adore, that I'll admit it to you guys, you know, because we know each other. Peter Sarstedt, Where Do You Go To, My Lovely? I love that song. Am I the only person in the world who doesn't think that's like really cheesy? You didn't get Morecambe and Wise, dearie me. I don't know what to say. How can you not find Morecambe and Wise funny? But I suppose it's personal taste, isn't it? But yeah. Does your missus sell crystals? I've started to become more spirit aware. She sells gemstones. So, you know, and she is kind of into, well, she's not into, but she knows about all the kind of myth and legend that's associated with them. So just, you know, ping me an email. You can find me on the website. Ping me an email through that. And John, yes, you are. Fair enough, mate. Yeah. Anyway, I bear me soul to you, and that's the kind of thanks I get. But yeah, just ping me an email if you're interested in some gemstones and crystals and stuff, and she can. I'll pass a message on, and you can liaise with her. Eric Morecambe lived just a few miles away from me. Big Luton Town supporter. I didn't know that. Yeah, I do like Ozzy. I do like a bit of Jim Croce myself. You know, he's one of those guys who kind of flies under the radar, and then suddenly, you know, it's like you hear a track and you think, I recognise that, and that's a big part of what I'm doing at the moment musically is you know, people like that whose name you recognise, but you're not really sure what they've done, and you check out a few, like a Greatest Hits album, and then you start kind of doing a bit of a deeper dive. That's a large part of what I'm doing musically at the moment, because frankly, the new music that's out at the moment, yeah, let's draw a veil over that, shall we? You know, there's not a lot of great music out there. So, but then again, I suppose middle-aged men have been saying that since time immemorial. But you know, as you're kind of going through life, there are always bands and artists and whatever that you just never get the chance to check out. So I'm kind of in that mode at the moment. I'm going back over and checking out bands that I kind of missed the first time around and artists. Peter Sellers does All I Want Is a Room Somewhere from My Fair Lady in an Indian accent that you just can't. Yes, indeed. Well, that was you know, the Goodness Gracious Me as well. That was one of his as well, wasn't it? Anyway, let's not get this channel demonetized, shall we, by talking about things like that. Jim, yes, really cheesy song I love is Gordon Lightfoot's Sundown, Whatever Happened to Him. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, If You Could Read My Mind, that was one of his, wasn't it? I mean, that's a fantastic song, you know. But, you know, again, where did he go? The past is a different country. They do things differently there. Yes, the net has made it possible for new artists without a record deal to be heard. I agree with that. The internet, for all of its, you know, and let's face it, there are downsides to the internet. although I wouldn't be making much of a living these days without it, it has to be said. But you know, it's like any new innovation. It's I think the good outweighs the bad, and you know, it's certainly democratized music, and that means that Tim Rice, actually, I remember him in an interview years ago saying that once upon a time, if you had a record out, it meant that somebody else had listened to it and thought it was good and thought that it was worth kind of, if you'd written a song, somebody else thought it was good and thought it was worth kind of, you know, paying for studio time and paying for, you know, the time of a record pressing plant and getting the music out there. And that kind of acted as a filter to kind of filter out the rubbish. So the fact that the internet has democratized music means that there's more stuff out there, which means that there's more bad stuff out there, but there's also more good stuff out there. As I say, I'm a kind of, you know, I'm a glass half full kind of person in large part. I see there's a bunch of guys here talking about their favourite whiskies. Yes, you don't want to see me on whiskey. I just, well, basically, you know, this stream would be about 10 minutes long if I was drinking whiskey, because then I'd be sort of like, okay, I'm going to go sleep now. John, I think your partner has a lot to do with the story of your story on your piece. Well, fair enough, mate. Anyone watched Axis of Awesome? Yes, I have. Yes, that thing where they kind of... I've seen that one famous video they did where they kind of, you know, mashed up a bunch of tunes and that were all kind of based on the same chord sequence, the Let It Be chord sequence. I find myself more and more listening to older music. Is that the sign of the times, or maybe I'm just getting old? No, Jason, you're just getting old, like all of us. I believe that the whiskey made you do it. Ain't that right? Yes, the story behind that actually was, because if anybody doesn't know, I did an album called The Whiskey Made Me Do It, and the track on that album, I just bought the acoustic guitar that you can't see because it's not in shot, it's over there. I just bought that acoustic and I just started improvising this kind of little blues chord sequence, and I ended up recording it and then improvised a bit of lead over it the next day. And when I was first playing the guitar, it was I'd had a couple of whiskies, so the whiskey made me do it. You're welcome, Ozzy. Anything I can do to help, mate? Ozzy's just got a bunch of new subscribers. Seriously, check him out. He's a canny guitar player. Peter Sarstead was a regular at the Toad Hall Folk Club in the 60s. I didn't know that, but there you go. Yes, Steve saying it'll be 15 as soon as John goes for his curry. It's not curry tonight. It's not curry. We in this house we have one takeaway a week usually, and quite often that's a curry on a Friday. But I was absolutely slammed busy with lessons the other day, and I only had 30 minutes to grab some food, so I just said to the missus, order Domino's to turn up at this time. And so that was our takeaway this week. This evening, it shall be chili. It's my own homemade chili. What's Ozzy's channel? He's put a link in the chat, hasn't he? Yeah, do you want to put your link up again, Ozzy? Because a lot of people are asking about your channel. I'll tell you what I'll do, mate. I will next video. I'll ping a link in the description to that for your channel. We lived in a great time for music. Yeah, we did. I mean, this is, if I can be serious for a moment, I mean, just to, again, rather than kind of going into the whole when I were a lad bit. But those of us who grew up in the 70s grew up in a golden age of rock music, I think. And rather than it just being kind of misty-eyed nostalgia, I'll tell you why I think that is the case. When any new musical genre appears, which the 70s was kind of the genre when, you can say the 60s really, I guess, but let's say from sort of the late 60s to the late 70s was when rock really blossomed as a genre. Anytime any new kind of art form emerges, when there are people kind of who are given enough rope to sort of take a few chances and see what works and what doesn't, that's when I think you get the classic era of any genre of art. If you think of the golden age of Hollywood, for example, when when color talkies kind of first came, all of the great movies kind of came out in that era, the ones that became the blueprint for everything else that would come after it. And I think that the 70s was the era of rock music when, you had the bands who were setting the benchmark for everything else that was to come after it. If you think about from, say, 1969 to 1979, okay, if you think about, you had the emergence of, kind of hard rock, progressive rock, country rock, kind of bluesy kind of rock, punk, which was just another form of rock music, and all that happened from if you think from kind of 1969 to 1979, all of the great bands that came out then that people are still referencing today. I think that is, if that doesn't qualify for a golden age, I don't know what does. Yes, Bob, you're up in Redcar next week and looking forward to a Parmo. Yes, dearie me. The Teesside institution that is the Parmo. For anybody who isn't from this neck of the woods, Parmo is basically chicken breast, all kind of bashed out and flattened, covered in bechamel sauce and covered in cheese and served with chips. It is absolutely a heart attack on a plate, but dearie me, it's good. Your life, S. Wainscott, your life has spanned 50s rock to the present and no complaints. Oh, Craig's having a Parmo tonight, dearie me. Yes, good for you, Craig. Yeah, I've got one in the freezer, and that might be coming out over the weekend at some point. Ozzy, yes, leave a comment on any of these videos. Leave a comment on this video when it's kind of finished and what have you. And as I say, ping me the link, or I'll pick it up off one of the comment sections, and I'll mention it in the next video. Would we have had any of the rock scene without the British blues movement? Probably not. Probably not, actually, because it was, I mean, if you think about that sort of blues into rock crossover, there's one name that looms large, isn't there? It's, it's Jimi Hendrix. And, it's like without that sort of Chas Chandler kind of discovering him, as it were, and, and kind of getting him into the kind of British scene, which was exploding at the time. He would have, well, maybe he wouldn't, I don't know, but that's certainly the way it happened. It's that kind of move from blues into something that's less 12-bar related. That sort of, that Hendrix's whole kind of arc sort of spanned that era, and he did to a large point define it. Yes, Malcolm's saying that I've been listening to a lot of Wishbone Ash various incarnations lately. Yeah, I mean, the album I can't stop listening to at the moment is Argus by Wishbone Ash. It's just one of those albums that it's just every track. There are a few albums like that I listen to on regular rotation. Pretzel Logic by Steely Dan is another one. But, you just think this is just Crime of the Century by Supertramp. There's another one. You just kind of, each track, just you're listening to it and each track just gets better and better as you go on. And that's, the album is becoming a lost kind of art form because people's attention span isn't what it used to be. And, once upon a time, people would sit down for 40, 45 minutes and listen to an album and listen to it from beginning to end. And nowadays it's like, apparently if people aren't grabbed in the first 15 seconds of a Spotify track, they skip to the next track. And, again, I was talking about the good points and the bad points of the internet. That is perhaps the shortening of the attention span is one of the bad points. Anyway, chaps, we've been on an hour and my belly is telling me that it's ready for me for some food, and my bladder is telling me that it needs to get rid of some beer. So I'm going to wind things up here for this evening, chaps. Thank you once again, everyone, for turning up. It has, as always, been an absolute blast. And let's look forward to doing it all again next Friday. Some good videos coming up. Hopefully you think so in the interim. But for now, I'm going to call time, gentlemen, please. Thank you for turning up, guys. Absolutely fantastic. See you all again next week. Bye-bye for now.